All right, we'll give folks just a couple seconds to log in and then we'll go ahead and get started. Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome, and thank you for being here with us today. As most of you know already, today we are here to introduce the Drive Safe bills. SAFE stands for the Safety, Access, Freedom, and the Economy bills, which are being reintroduced in the Michigan legislature in both the House and the Senate. The bills will restore driver's licenses for over 100,000 immigrants in our state, including undocumented immigrants, which every Michigan resident had a right to up until 2008. My name is Eva Alvarez, and I am with the Michigan Immigrant Rights Center. MERC is a member of the Drive Michigan Forward Coalition, which is a statewide coalition that is working to reinstate driver's licenses for all Michiganders. The DMF coalition, primary sponsors, and supporters support the passage of these bills. And today I will be helping moderate the conversation between all of our speakers. And we will also be having a discussion on these bills and their importance to Michigan communities. Restoring driver's licenses for immigrants has massive implications for immigrants and their families, our communities, and our economic well-being. It's been a battle of over a decade, and it's time that we pass these bills and provide immigrants with the dignity and respect that they deserve, while improving road safety and boosting state revenue at the same time. Today, we will be hearing from the following individuals in the following order. We'll be hearing from both our primary sponsors in the House, Representative Hood from District 76 and Representative Krupa from District 41. Two community members, both Edith and Cy, Ted Nelson from the Law Enforcement Action Partnership, also known as LEAP, Rob Stevens from Stevens Orchards in Sparta, Michigan, and last but not least, Tom Hickson, Vice President of Public Policy and Executive Team at the Michigan Catholic Conference. I also want to note that one of our speakers will be speaking in Spanish, so if you need to, please turn on your captions so that you can get the translation from her speech. With that being said, I want to turn it over to our first speaker, Representative Hood.
Hello and good afternoon. Thank you, Ava, and I appreciate all of the work that you and the coalition have done to drive us forward. And here we are this afternoon. My name is Rachel Hood, and I serve in the 76th House District in the city of Grand Rapids. I'm proud to be here today as a sponsor of the Drive Safe legislation, along with my colleagues, Senator Stephanie Chang, Senator Winnie Brinks, and Representative Padma Krupa. These two bills introduced in the Senate and gaining co-sponsorship in the House and to be introduced today will restore the ability of Michigan residents who meet the definition of residency in Michigan and can prove their identity, but may not be able to prove lawful presence to obtain a driver's license or a state identification card. Immigrants touch all sectors of our economy, providing valuable contributions in a wide range of industries, from agriculture and manufacturing to hospitality, healthcare, construction, and more. They are entrepreneurs and business owners who offer important value to communities across our state. Immigrants are employers, taxpayers, homeowners, and there are neighbors, family members, and friends. In Kent County alone, immigrants are vital contributors to the West Michigan economy, pumping $1 billion into our communities every year. While I'm not an immigrant, nor do I come from an immigrant family, I am married into one. My mother-in-law came to the US in her early 20s for economic opportunity after a childhood marked by Nazi occupation in her home country. It was a moment that defined her, forging her character and driving an incredible work ethic, an entrepreneurial spirit, and a humble generosity for the people that she cared for over her long career in nursing. Today, we see new waves of immigrants coming to the US and taking nothing for granted. They contribute their unparalleled work ethic, their generosity and passion to achieve upward mobility in the US, like so many who have come before them. And while the circumstances that bring immigrants to the US today vary, the challenges faced by immigrant communities throughout history endure. And being able to get a driver's license or a state ID shouldn't be one of the challenges that endures for these hardworking, dedicated, and passionate people. It's important to note that this legislation will cover not just undocumented immigrants, but many other people will benefit as well. Daca recipients, legal immigrants who have not yet received their verification documents because of bureaucratic delays, rural-born elderly people who don't have birth certificates, citizens born abroad, and foreign adoptees can all benefit from these bills. Our undocumented neighbors from every walk of life should be able to go to work, drive their kids to school, get groceries, and seek medical care with dignity and without fear. In the several years that we've been working on this issue, a broad set of organizations and leaders have come to surround this work, and that group has grown exponentially. Faith leaders, fruit and vegetable growers, business owners, labor organizations, education leaders, and immigrants' rights organizations are all part of our team because we believe it's critical for our state to restore the ability of people who can't prove their legal presence to get driver's licenses and state IDs. More than a dozen states already have similar laws in place. They've experienced workforce and economic benefits, public safety improvements, and insurance savings to consumers. You'll see an ever-increasing and broadening list of groups working to pass this legislation so that Michigan can once again enjoy these benefits as well. We're proud to introduce these bills and committed to strengthening the broad-based support for this legislation. We'll work hard for as long as it takes to get it done. And with that, I'm honored to pass the mic to my colleague, Representative Padma Kupa from District 41.
Thank you so much, Rachel, Representative Hood. It's an honor to be here with all of these wonderful people that are going to be telling us stories. But first, I want to share a little bit about how I, as a state representative for Michigan's 41st House District, came to be a sponsor of the Drive Safe legislation that we're introducing in both chambers of the legislature. Drive Safe will restore the right to a driver's license or a state ID. Prior to 2008, Michigan law contained no requirement that an applicant for a driver's license or a state ID card needed a specific immigration or citizenship status in order to be eligible. I came here as a green card holder. I became a naturalized citizen at then Cobo Hall. Today, I represent Troy and Clawson. House District 41 is home to many people like me, people of immigrant origin. In fact, nearly 30% of Troy is foreign born. Many of these people are legal immigrants with visas that sound like alphabet soup, H-1B, H-4, F-1, L-1. They are impacted by not only the changes we made in Michigan in 2008, but also the inertia of the federal government to address legal immigration reform. Many people are here working for multinational corporations, filling jobs because they have the skills needed for those jobs. However, when their visa needs renewal, they are stuck. So many people across Metro Detroit have come to me since I was elected, even if they don't live in my district. They want to get to work, they want to go to college, they want to buy groceries, but they don't have a valid driver's license to get where they need to go. Over the last year, I have sought help from the Secretary of State's office to see if this could be addressed with an administrative fix. But thankfully, the Driving Michigan Forward Coalition exists, and these Drive Safe bills are the way to address this situation. Not only do we introduce these bills, we must give these bills a hearing and enact them into law. 16 states and Puerto Rico and Washington, D.C. have already done this. Because immigrants are business owners, they are parents, they are professionals, they're essential workers and caregivers. Allowing them access to a driver's license means that they can fulfill their responsibilities, whether it's going to work, going to college, taking a sick child to the doctor, or shopping for necessities. For people like Sai, who will be speaking, or others like Ramagopal or Amit, who have explained these issues to me, it allows them to participate in our state economy more fully and realize the promise of America that we offered them when they came here. I'd like to turn it over now to Edith to tell a community member who is going to share her story.
Hola, buenas tardes. Mi nombre es Edith Martínez, soy miembro de la comunidad de Kalamazoo y he vivido en este país por más de 20 años. Soy madre soltera y soy la única proveedora de mis 2 hijas nacidas ciudadanas estadounidenses, Yaxari y Yareli. Mi hija Yareli ahora tiene 10 años. Nació con una enfermedad cardíaca congénita compleja, conocida como síndrome del corazón izquierdo hipoplástico. Ella ha tenido muchas cirugías, incluyendo un trasplante de corazón, siguiendo de muchas complicaciones. Aparte del trasplante, mi hija sufrió del cáncer y necesita mucha atención médica. Aunque nuestra familia vive en Kalamazoo, mi hija ha pasado la mayor parte de su vida en el hospital de la Universidad de Michigan en Ann Arbor. Debido a mi estado migratorio, no he podido obtener una licencia de conducir en Michigan, lo que me ha sido dificultando mucho viajar a la Universidad de Michigan para estar con mi hija y participar en su cuidado. Ha sido increíble, difícil y doloroso para mí y para mis hijas. Ahora tengo presencia legal en los Estados Unidos, pero aún no he tenido que obtener una licencia de conducir porque no tengo los documentos exactos para probar mis estatus migratorios que requiere la Secretaría del Estado. La situación de mi familia es extremadamente difícil, pero muchas familias en mi comunidad están en la misma situación. No tener una licencia de conducir significa tener dificultad en cuidar a sus hijos y familias y participar plenamente en sus comunidades. Espero que este proyecto de la ley mejore las cosas para familias y comunidades como la mía y para todos los que quieran que los conductores en Michigan estén seguros, con licencia y asegurados. A continuación vamos a escuchar a Sai y otra persona de la comunidad inmigrante. Gracias.
Hey everyone, my name is Sai and I have lived in the US since first grade and I'm currently at Troy High School, a senior at Troy High School, and I'll be attending MSU this fall. I've done all of my education here and we're still here on a visa and we applied for our green card back in 2016, but we're still waiting on getting that, which has made things so much harder for us, not just getting a license, but so many other things. But one of the hardest things was driving, and I got my license a year ago, but this year our visa renewal came up, which means my driver's license is no longer valid, and I can't do so many things now. Like I can't go out to get groceries, I can't go out at all, I can't go to school because I can't drive anymore. And these are small things, but they make such a huge change in our life. And for me personally, I haven't been able to go out and get things that I need from school. And I have my AP exams coming up at school, but I can't take them in person because I can't drive to school. So I have to take them online. And with this, visa renewal process, I don't even know how long it's gonna take before I can even apply for the license renewal, let alone drive again. And we don't have any hopes of getting our green cards anytime soon because of the green card backlog. And hopefully with this bill that they're planning on introducing, some of the struggles that we're facing as immigrants can be lightened. Thank you. And up next we have Ted Nelson.
Can I be heard? Okay. My name is Ted Nelson, and as a spokesman for Law Enforcement Action Partnership, which is known as LEAP, an international nonprofit group of sheriffs, police, prosecutors, and judges. And I'm also a proud retiree after 26 years with the Michigan State Police. I worked in Detroit, Ionia, Lansing, Grand Rapids area as both a trooper and as a detective sergeant. I'm here to support immigrants being given the opportunity to obtain a Michigan driver's license for the following reasons. It will improve road safety, which is what law enforcement is all about. People who drive in Michigan should go through the same testing procedures to obtain a driver's license, whether they be immigrants or people who live here. And by not giving immigrants the right to obtain a driver's license, we force them into a situation their safety at risk, community members at risk. We need those people to go through the licensing process to get vehicles registered to them and also to get proper insurance for those vehicles. And this will aid in that area. Also for police officers, it's very important when a police officer stops somebody that they know who they're talking to. Without proper identification, police are then forced to try to figure out who these people are, whether they're wanted or not, whether they can drive in Michigan, and it takes up a lot of time and resources for law enforcement. It would be much better if law enforcement was able to look at someone's identification and see that they are a registered driver in this state and not spend additional time that's unnecessary to spend with these people so they can go on to work or to school or to do shopping. Law enforcement has it difficult enough in today's times dealing with community without having people afraid of calling the police because they don't have proper identification. So I think that by allowing immigrants to obtain a driver's license, it will do nothing but to make our communities safer. It will make police officers' job better and easier. And I am 100% in support of these bills. And thank you for the time that you gave me today. And can I introduce Rob Steffens, please?
Rob is joining us via phone. Rob, can you hear me? Rob, if you can please unmute yourself.
Can you hear me?
Yep, perfect.
Can you hear me now? All right. Thank you. Yes, this is Rob Steffens. I'm a fourth generation apple grower in Sparta. I couldn't agree more with everybody who's spoken here before me. I guess my personal issue with this goes back to 2008 when they were not able to renew their driver's license. I have two long-term employees that are currently driving with an expired license from 2008. One of them has been pulled over 3-4 times. We have employees at our packing facilities, Michigan Apple Packers, Elite Apple, and at my own farm that fall into this category. And trying to get a safe way to work is very important. These people want to follow the law, but aren't unable to. I think it's in the best interest of everybody, including the taxpayer, to have these people be able to drive legally. As Mr. Nelson alluded to, just in the last 3 weeks, one of my long-term employees was hauling old fertilizer bags back and was pulled over by the state police. They did not issue a ticket for his expired driver's license, but I did receive a ticket for wide load. However, the point is they understood the situation. And to me, it makes perfect economic sense to have these people go through the process, take a driver's test. They'll get the license, they'll pay the fee, they'll get the insurance. Let's not hide ourselves in the sand and think that this population doesn't exist. We need this population. It's important for us, for our economy. And really, I found it very frustrating. I've been trying to preach this to Farm Bureau now for probably going on 10 years, knowing we were going to have a problem. So I support this legislation wholeheartedly, as do our managers and the rest of my partners and fellow farmers, at least in my organization. So I don't know what else to add. So I guess I will pass it on to the next person. And I can't remember his name. Tom, is it?
Thank you, Rob. Yes. Up next, we have Tom from the Michigan Catholic Conference.
Thank you, Rob, and thank you, everyone. It's great to be here today. Again, I'm Tom Hickson with the Michigan Catholic Conference. The MCC is pleased for the 4th session in a row now to support a policy change that is common sense, compassionate, and will improve public safety. Since 2008, Michigan has had a policy in place that prohibits neighbors, friends, and family the ability to drive a vehicle because of their status, or to obtain a permit to drive a vehicle because of their status. Gridlock in Congress has failed to produce comprehensive solutions to address our immigration laws. At the same time, as we know, there are already many undocumented people who work in our communities, attend church services, and have children in our schools, just like everyone else. In fact, many of these individuals are actually frontline warriors who continue to help Michigan get through the pandemic. They deserve our respect and gratitude. We are here today because this is an issue of human dignity. Denying individuals the ability to drive impacts their opportunity to work, to take care of children, to further an education, or to assist a sick relative. Everyone deserves to be able to care for their families. And in a state that is known as the home of the Motor City, you really need to drive to do that. Not only is this a matter of simple human dignity, but it's also a safety issue. Denying nearly 100,000 people the ability to obtain a driver's license increases the risk of auto accidents because of a lack of knowledge of rules on the road, as has been previously stated. It also increases insurance costs for the rest of us. Thankfully, Senators Chang and Brinks and Representatives Hood and Koopa, who we've heard from here today, have introduced legislation in the form of Senate Bill 433 and 34, and the House bills, as you heard, are going to be introduced this afternoon. And this legislation has long been supported by the Michigan Catholic Conference to allow undocumented residents to take driver's training and legally be able to operate a vehicle on Michigan's roads. Now, it's very important to acknowledge and to recognize this policy does not grant any undocumented person the ability to vote or otherwise obtain the privileges of U.S. citizenship. Discussions of that nature can only occur through federal action. These bills, however, represent one small but very powerful step that will increase safety on our roads, protect Michigan's citizens, but most importantly, treats people with the human dignity they deserve to provide for their families. We applaud the bill sponsors for their leadership on this issue and look forward to working with them to get this enacted as quickly as possible. Now, I'd like to pass it back to Eva.
Much, Tom. I do want to recognize that due to limited time, we don't have enough time to have many of our different supporters speak today, but I want to recognize that in addition to all of our amazing speakers today, we also have Michael Cooper from the Jewish Community Relations Council, also known as JCRC, AJC. Michael, if you just want to wave and say hello. Thank you. And in addition, although our other primary sponsors from the Senate were not able to make it to today's conversation, I want to recognize that our additional sponsors are Senator Chang and Senator Brinks. And with all of that being said, as we've heard today, there's a broad growing number of supporters for these bills. We've heard today from our primary sponsors in the House, community members, LEAP, Stebbins Orchards, and the Michigan Catholic Conference. We've heard support and acknowledging that there is such a huge impact to agriculture, economy benefit, public safety increases when people can get driver's licenses, the importance of recognizing that this is an issue of human dignity. And again, many different people will benefit from passing this legislation. With that being said, we do want to include on the chat on Facebook a link to acknowledge and thank our legislative champions. Again, those are Senators Chang and Brinks in the Senate, and Representative Hood and Representative Krupa for supporting on-the-ground organizers, immigrants, and allies. So if you click on that link, you'll be able to send that message out to our sponsors. And in addition to that, next week, we will be having a week of action taking place from Tuesday to Thursday, May 18th to the 20th, where you're able to help with phone banking, which does require a training beforehand, helping us with meeting with any of your state legislators and advocating in the passage of these bills, and or granting a hearing, or taking some form of digital action. And again, with all of that being said, we want to thank all of our speakers for the time and this very important announcement of the Drive Safe bills, which again stands for the safety, access, freedom, and the economy. And we look forward to working with the coalition, with the primary sponsors and supporters to advance these set of bills in the Michigan State Legislature. Thank you. Okay, so we are not live anymore. I believe there's media, so we can field media questions accordingly. I'm not sure how we want to do that, but we can connect individually.
Maybe we just, if folks have questions, they can just type them into the chat and we can field them from there in the order that they come in.
I see one question in the chat, Lina, from Suzanne Potter. It says, please restate the bill numbers and whether they've already been introduced.
Sure. So the bills have been introduced in the Senate, and it's correct me if I'm wrong, 433 and 434. Is that right?
That is correct, Lina.
Thank you. And then we should have House bills later this afternoon, correct? Does somebody want to speak to how the bills, what the bills do more specifically and how they differ? Maybe one of the representatives?
Rachel, do you want me to take this?
Yes, please.
Sure. So there's two bills. One is about the Real ID and the other one is related to the driver's license renewal. And so in the House, we have not introduced them yet because we are hoping to encourage some bipartisan co-sponsorship. And so I'm trying to find my specifics on the bills. They've been introduced in the past by Rachel, Representative Hood, and also by Representative Garza.
And last session, both Senator Brinks and Chang were on the bills in the 100th legislature as well.
Right. And I'll pop the exact descriptions of the bill into the chat window so you can take the next question.
Great. So Courtney Bennett from Michigan Now, NBC 25 and Fox wants to know why it is important right now to get these bills passed in the state of Michigan.
We haven't seen support from chairs of committees to host a hearing in past efforts. So we're hopeful to get that hearing this time around.
Great. Are there any other questions?
Did we get the one in the chat again from Suzanne? It says which groups and lawmakers have come out against this in the past.
Yeah, I was sort of responding to that. We haven't seen a negative effort, but we also haven't seen the positive effort of bringing the bills up for the hearing. So it's hard to say that groups have come out against the bills when in fact they haven't even been heard.
Great.
I popped the descriptions of the two bills. They are the same as the two Senate bills. I do not remember which of 433 and 434 are the two Senate bills, but they're parallel to the bills that I put the descriptions in the chat. And I would say that this is an economic issue, as you heard from both Edith and from Sai. There are many people who have come forward speaking about how they're unable to drive with, even if they do get a license, if they don't get a license, either they're driving without the license, which is harmful to all our public safety. And if they are unable to get it and they don't drive, it's harmful to their personal, economic well-being, and they're not able to get to work. I know that when I was working in my last position before I came to the legislature, one of my colleagues was stuck without a license and he would have to find rides with other people. Another colleague, his wife would drop him off at work because I think his license wasn't valid, hers was, and they had to figure out how to pick up the child from school. And so it causes so much inconvenience to people who are here on working and being part of the economy, and then you slow them down like this.
Representative, if I could add to that, I mean, all we have to do is drive around any town in Michigan or really across the country for that matter, and look at the help wanted signs and how many people they need to have employees, and how many folks are we talking about here that would love to work, but they don't have an ability to get there. And I think it is a truly an economic issue as well.
And I would say in Michigan, it's even more required than in other parts of the country, metro areas of the country that have mass transit. We don't have significant mass transit, and without a license in Michigan, you really are not able to get to work easily.
Exactly. That's why I made the reference to the Motor City. We're great on cars, but as far as public transportation, you need to have a car. You need to be able to get from point A to point B.
Thanks.
I'll add that in the context of Michigan's auto no fault changes, a driver's license becomes increasingly important as well, because drivers now have new liabilities and insurance carriers need to see those licenses. So if people are driving without a license and presumably without full coverage of their vehicles, then we create a lot of victims unintentionally. So now that auto no fault is no longer what it once was, it becomes increasingly important to make sure that every driver who is on the road is documented for the safety and health and protection of all drivers.
I can speak to the undocumented experience. My name is Nelly Fuentes. I'm gonna drop my name in the chat. And not having a driver's license is also a health issue. And I remember this very clearly at the beginning of the pandemic, when people, especially for undocumented workers, who most of us are labeled essential workers and are required to go to work. Essential workers were practically the ones who kept the economy of this state running or during the pandemic, and we were required to go to work without a driver's license. And as essential workers, and as the pandemic was hitting last year, there were a lot of people in our community who were not able to access a COVID test. And there's still people who have questions about accessing a COVID vaccine because of the lack of a driver's license, because it's, an identification, point of identification is required for these health reasons. So I just wanted to make sure to add that, like, yes, it is an economic issue. Yes, it is, but it is also a health issue in our state.
I see another question in the chat. It says, do you have an estimate of what this program would cost to implement, or any stats on how this has improved things in other states? So maybe we can speak a little bit to cost, Laura or Simon, and then I'm wondering if someone can also speak about maybe New Jersey or Pennsylvania as well.
I'm happy to jump in. My name is Simon Marshall Shaw. I'm a state policy fellow with the Michigan League for Public Policy. So my colleague Laura Ross just dropped in the chat a report that we put out about this policy change and some of the economic impacts. Also just making sure folks can hear me. There we go. So that is a good question around some of the costs to the Secretary of State, for example. It certainly would cost some money to implement this legislation, to include translation services or interpretation services, potentially in addition to staffing, for increased interest over especially the first few years of implementation. Some other states have done this over the last few years with varying degrees, which are listed in the report cost-wise, but the economic boost that the state would see would be well beyond the cost of implementation. So some of those numbers just specifically would be about $13.5 million as an estimate for the first 3 years of implementation. And that would also lead to a recurring $12 million in revenue. So that's primarily from license fees for getting a new license, sales and gas taxes on new vehicles, and registration fees for vehicles. And so over the course of about 10 years, we would expect about $100 million in revenue from this legislation alone. And that's an estimate based on 55,000 people obtaining a license in the first 3 years. And the report goes into some more details on that methodology. So I'd encourage folks to take a look at that section if you'd like to see, since as mentioned, this change would benefit over 100 million 100,000 Michiganders. And this does not assume that everybody would make the choice to get a license. And we do go into that. But just wanting to answer that, and happy to go into it further if necessary.
Okay.
Any other questions? Okay, I'm going to put my contact information. Sure.
Sai, are you able to restate your age, town, when you came to the US, and from which country? Whatever information that you would be comfortable sharing to the press, and it's okay if not all.
Yeah, I am 17 currently. I came to the US when I was 4, and then
Sai, could you repeat that last part that you said? It cut out a little bit, I think.
I said I was from India. Also, I think my name is spelled wrong here, so I'm just gonna type the correct spelling in.
All right, well, if there's no other questions, then I think we'll wrap it up. I did put my contact information in the chat, so if there are any additional questions, I'm happy to connect you with any of the participants today.